Your first question comes from the line of Donovan Schafer from Northland Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the questions, and thank you for the update on the buybacks, just that you've continued to take action on that so far into the year. My first question is, with the increase in cash expenditures for 2024 versus what you'd said before, and that seeming to come mostly from CapEx for additive manufacturing, can you give us a sense of how much of that is more just regular operating expense for overhead employees and stuff, and how much of that is the CapEx? Is it the 10 million incremental increases is just sort of the CapEx investment? And also, if you can give a sense of what kind of a throughput that translates into, for a given number of, X number of generators to be able to be made in a year, what's the CapEx that gets you that?
Yeah. Hi, Donovan. This is John. I think I can answer those questions, and Thomas can jump in. But first off, I think we're still on the the OpEx component of that $40 million of cash burn. We're still looking at to be largely the same as what we saw before, just in terms of labor costs and R&D and so on. It really is we just added a range to it because we are planning to get some additional additive capacity that will likely hit the capital spending side. And so we just gave ourselves a little upside there, but it is going to increase capacity for both this year and next year. And then on the second question, I think I'll refer back to the guidance that we gave, that we're going to be delivering a handful of units this year, and then the revenue guidance for next year kind of drives that volume. So it's all part of that capacity ramp-up plan, but we just saw an opportunity to start ramping it up a little bit quicker.
And then as a follow-up question, so I think it does seem like there's some interesting opportunity on the using the generator for landfill gas or anaerobic digesters or somewhere like that, where being able to, you can really come out ahead economically if you can cut out some of the processing equipment that would be typically used. So I know by the end of the year, you hope to line up someone for the initial sort of beta deployment, but is that something where you would consider doing like you've done with Permian gas, where you could, like deploy a unit out there even just on a temporary basis, just to kind of, prove the concept or demonstrate it, even if it wasn't going to be a permanent deployment, but just to show, to test it. Okay, here's gas from a landfill, and it's running, and we're getting the positive results we want to see. Is that something you'd consider doing?
Yeah, absolutely, Donovan. So this is Thomas. You hit the nail on the head of what we're looking to do. So I think our first showcase was with Detmar Logistics. Now, that was an oil and gas focused one where Detmar was able to provide us with gas from the Permian Basin. On today's call, it was the first time that we actually shared some of the emissions results from that, which came out very, very positively, as you heard on the call. And so as we think about the waste gas, or even as you mentioned, the anaerobic digester, we actually already have a partner in place on that one, working through the exact same process, right? We're going to test the gas first, make sure that it works through the reactor as we would anticipate. And then, as you mentioned, we'll get a unit actually deployed out at one of their locations and running on that gas. And I think while they're very similar at a high level from the standpoint of it's taking what would have been waste gas and being able to make electricity out of it, the value propositions are slightly different, right? Because in the more the landfill situation, you're taking what would have been just waste and making it electricity. In the oil and gas space, there's actually an opportunity to eliminate the need for a virtual pipeline. And for anyone who isn't familiar with that, so that's basically where they need electricity at oil and gas sites. And what they actually do is they truck in purified natural gas in order to run generators and produce electricity. We see the Carno as an opportunity where you can actually eliminate that need for trucking in purified natural gas and just use what's coming straight out of the wellhead. So kind of similar segments, but a little bit different value opportunities in each one.
And then just my last question would be, as you know, I think there's been a little bit of softness in the EV space, and with ramping up battery production and stuff, you know, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of speculation or potential movement in commodity prices. And I know, cobalt is an important part of NMC battery, lithium-ion batteries. Your primary kind of additive material is the cobalt, chrome and cobalt kind of mixture combination. So is it, and those prices are quite, certainly cobalt is very, very low right now. Going forward, as you get to, talking about like gross margins being maybe break even in 2025, I believe you said, how sensitive is that to these input prices, or does a lot of the cost actually come through, from the investment in the additive manufacturing equipment as opposed to, material costs? Just trying to understand how much of an impact movements in those prices can have.
Yeah, so at least at today, the buildup of the bill of material into the generator, it's kind of a spread between some of it is the actual powder cost, and as you're mentioning, there's cobalt chromium that we're using for some of the components. Then you have the actual linear motor side of it. You have all the balance of plant components, and then there's a pretty sizable amount that's actually in the cost of running that additive machine. So while there is an aspect of if cobalt prices go up, then that will impact our powder cost. We're not in a situation though where it's like 90% of our BOM is based on one of these components or something like that. So could have some impact, but we don't see it as a material amount. With that being said, though, even just for the very initial production units, these beta parts that we're producing, we've actually already started shifting some of the components off into other materials. So for instance, the chiller side of it, we're actually shifting that to using aluminum, which is a lower cost solution than some of the other powders out there. So we are being cost conscious in that way of making sure that we're selecting the right materials to meet the performance, but also have a solid bill of material cost.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, guys. I'll take the rest of my questions offline.
Again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. We currently have, we do. Your next question comes from the line of Bruce Gillickson. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Old-time trucker here was really excited about the hybrid truck. Is the Carno Energy machine going to be incorporated into the truck, or is the truck line shelved for now, and why would we shelve it when there was so much potential for it?
Yeah, so appreciate the question. So as we shared last quarter, we are taking the powertrain technology that we developed and stopping the development, putting that technology on the shelf. As we mentioned on today's call, we are looking at, are there still ways to potentially work with others, sale of the assets, sale of some of the technology or royalties, things like that, to see if there is still a way to leverage that technology. But we do see potentially long-term that there is the ability that we could even bring that back. However, the reason really for driving that shift last quarter was because we saw a lot of challenging economics facing the EV trucking space. And even since last quarter, we've continued to see it probably even get worse, at least sustain but probably even get worse. And so from that standpoint, we are confident that the shift we made was the right shift for shareholders. And we're excited to get the Carno commercialized. As we shared on today's call, a lot of positive progress being made towards that. And then we'll assess as we go forward if there is an opportunity to bring the powertrain solution back, and as you mentioned, potentially couple that with the Carno as the range extender.
We have no further questions in our queue at this time. Thomas Healy, I'll turn the call back to you for closing remarks.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining today's call. As we highlighted today, we have a lot of exciting developments planned for 2024. Most notably is actually getting units out deployed, these early field units, and getting feedback from those customers and establishing those partnerships to really bring us into 2025 and start scaling the ramp up of the delivery of KARNO generators. So thank you for joining today's call, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
This concludes today's conference call. Thank you for your participation, and you may now disconnect.